When you're traveling in Europe, why is it a good idea to keep a few of these on you? And when is the best time of year not to go to Europe? Why is everyone in Hungary a millionaire? Why does every exit on the autobahn take you to Asphalt? And what exactly is behind these doors? Welcome to Urban Goodness, and today we're going to be discussing the 5 things you need to know before traveling to Europe. I recently returned from my first visit to Europe ever, and basically that first trip was a trial by fire of learning new things in a strange land. Now I'm from Florida in the US, so a lot of this is going to be from an American's perspective. Stick around so you can learn from my experiences. We're going to talk about the weather, what kind of money you need to carry around, what exactly is the bathroom situation like over there, do you need to learn the language, and what about the phones? If this is the kind of thing that interests you, please click like and subscribe and turn on those notifications. Let's get to it. First up, when is the best time of year to go to Europe? We visited in the summer, and let me tell you, although we had a wonderful time, I'm thinking summer can be a little rough. We went during a heat wave. Now, as I said before, I'm from Florida, but here's a little fun fact. In Florida, air conditioning and water are easy to find, but when you're going on day-long tours of European cities in the middle of a heat wave, that heat can be brutal. And when the tour guide says, "Now let's go inside," don't be surprised when that 900-year-old castle does not have air conditioning. In fact, in a lot of places in Europe, the air conditioning could not keep up. Also, on the tour buses, when they're parked, it is against the law for them to be idling, so there wasn't any air conditioning on the buses at that time either. Now, once the buses got out on the road, then we'd have air conditioning. While in the US, most restaurants will pour you a giant glass of water when you sit down at the table, in Europe it is not a given. I even saw shot glasses being used in one restaurant. I'm going to need a lot of shot glasses. They will sometimes also ask if you want still or sparkling water and then bring a bottle of what you request to pour into those small glasses. But at least I got my sparkling water.
Did not expect fizzy water there, sorry.
I need to look at the bright side though, and at least there wasn't any rain that could have washed out our plans. But if I had a nickel for every time someone said, "Hey, you're from Florida, you must be used to this," then I would have 4 nickels, which isn't a lot of money, but still more times than you would want to hear that. And speaking of nickels, let's talk about the money situation over there. I was prepared to bring a big bag of euros with me, but here's the thing. Even if a country is part of the European Union, it does not mean they are using euros. In Hungary, for example, forints are the coin of the realm. And here is a forint. This is for 2,000 forints. If you are wondering what you can get for this, let's say a beer can be around 700 forints. Now that's not as expensive as you would think when you consider that's only about 2 euros, but with the exchange rate being what it is, there is a common expression in Hungary, and it's that everyone is a millionaire. A lot of these conversion rates you don't have to worry about if you have a credit card that can be used almost anywhere. That is, if you have one of the more widely accepted credit cards. If that's you, then you don't even have to worry about doing any math. Caution. On the credit card terminals, it will ask if you are paying in USD, US dollars, or whatever your home currency is, or if you want to pay in the local currency. In this case, forints or euros or something like that. Resist the urge to select your home currency and instead select the local currency. This will be less expensive for you as you won't have to pay a third-party conversion fee, and the credit card company will get you the best conversion rate. One side note, and this is also important, make sure your credit card doesn't carry any foreign transaction fees, as those can add up as well. But what if you need to use cash, particularly for tipping? It's about, depending on when you watch this video, 390 forints to 1 euro. And the euro is comparable to the US dollar. There is some fluctuation though. Everyone over there will take euros for tipping. This includes Hungary, which normally uses forints, and the Czech Republic, which normally uses Czech crowns. So if you're traveling to multiple countries, feel free to take out euros and use them for tipping. I find 10 euros for a half-day tour worked for me. You'll find plenty of places in the center of the city where you can convert your money to euros. There is a fee, so it's normally better to do this in the city center rather than at the airport where the fees can be higher. And here's what the euros look like. Notice that the smallest bill is a €5 bill. there is a €1 coin and €2 coin, and these are quite common. Also, you'll notice the bills come in different colors and sizes, which is not what Americans are used to. You may want to keep a few of these coins on you for reasons other than tips. That's right, now we're going to talk about the bathrooms. Another place where cash came in handy was for using the paid toilets. That sounds terrible, I know, but hear me out. Trying to find a bathroom in an odd city can cause many travelers to have anxiety, but in Europe, there were plenty of clean public bathrooms. Most had stall doors that went all the way to the floor without those giant gaps in them. Now, usually you can use the ones in the restaurant you are at, but let's say you're out and about. There are signs all over for toilets or water closets. I took a lot of pictures of bathrooms for some reason. The only catch is these public bathrooms are usually €1, so if you're like me and sometimes need to make that pit stop, it's not a bad idea to have a few €1 coins in your pocket. When I was in Vienna, they had a bathroom in this underground metro station, and they even took credit cards for the use of them. Bonus tip. Many times in Europe, decimal points are represented as decimal commas. You'll see them on receipts or other places where prices are indicated, such as menus, so don't get confused. Paying for the bathrooms can sometimes guarantee they are clean and kept up and not too crowded. Now here's a bonus tip. One time I asked someone in English where the restroom was, and they looked at me funny. I said toilet, and they were like, ah, okay. So toilet or water closet seems to be the best term used most often in Europe. But other than some issues with local expressions, it's way easier than I thought to get by only with the knowledge of English. So let's talk about the language situation in Europe. English is a commonly used language. One thing I was worried about over there was not being able to get around. But here's the thing. There are so many languages in Europe that folks living there need to default to a common language if their language of national origin does not match someone else's. And that common language, many times, is English. In fact, I overheard English being spoken quite a bit while I was there. Now, this was my experience in the city itself. If you wander off the beaten path, it could be a little different. But English is taught in many schools in Europe today and is becoming increasingly popular with teenagers. Just be polite and don't assume everyone is going to understand what you're saying. I recommend avoiding local slang, like restroom. You can bring a translator with you. No, I don't mean actually hire someone to walk around with you, but for example, on your Android phone, you can download a Google Translate app. One tip though is to make sure you download the required languages ahead of time in case you end up in an area with bad reception. The signs can be a different story over there. Sometimes they are dual signed with English, but not always. I found it helpful to Google some of these signs, so I got used to what they were saying whenever I saw them. But there is a common joke that every exit in Austria and Germany will take you to Ausfahrt. This is actually exit in German. So once I knew that, it made a little more sense seeing these on the autobahn. Now speaking of communication, what about using your phones over there? I actually had two phones while I was in Europe, and one was on Verizon and one was on AT&T. AT&T had a plan where you could do international roaming for $12 a day, and Verizon, it was $10 a day. Additional phones on your plan are only charged half that rate. Be sure to double check all of this with your carrier. You may want to check with them for a special international package, because although $10 a day does not seem like much, it can add up and you don't want any surprises on your next phone bill. But one thing you can do is take advantage of the Wi-Fi. Using an app like WhatsApp, you can communicate with the rest of your party over Wi-Fi. To make sure you are not charged for using data, set your phone to airplane mode, then turn your Wi-Fi back on so that it is the only thing being used. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. What is behind these doors? Did you figure it out? These will actually take you to the men's room and the women's room. I'll let you guess which one is which. In my next few videos, I'll discuss the various cities I went to in Europe. Be sure to click like and subscribe so you can keep up with all the adventures I went on. And if you have any additional tips or questions, please feel free to drop a line in the comments. Also, check out this video that is a bit closer to home. Well, my home anyway. And I will see you soon.